Welcome to Soulful Latte podcast, a weekly conversation between two sisters to help us and our virtual friends online, like yourselves, grow in life and in faith. We're your hosts. I am Qudsiyah.
And I'm Samia.
And this is season 2.
Welcome to episode 2. In this episode, we're talking about what do we surround ourselves with and its effects on our well-being. When I think of what we surround ourselves with, I think of people, places, things, ideas, everything that falls in the what defines a noun category. To me, the things are also physical things around me and also things in my immediate surroundings and in my further surroundings. So I feel like I'm really affected by what I am around. If I'm in a really big city, then I feel really agitated for too long. But if I'm in nature, I feel amazing. So all of those things, to me, would be something that we surround ourselves with. What about you, Qudsiyah? What are some things that you think fall in this category?
I would say people, things that I'm consuming online or offline, the conversations around me, whether that's offline or online. So I guess that's the same thing.
But I think we all really do get an idea. What is interesting, though, in what you're saying is online and offline and how they're basically the same things. It is insane how just in a matter of years we've changed the definition of communication. Now it's like the words I type is of the same as the words I say. So in regards to our online persona, actually they did a study that found out that around 86% of US adults aged 18 to 29 are on social media. Qudsiyah, I did not find anything about what it is in the UK, but I imagine that it's around the same number, you know?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Do you think everyone that you meet is on social media?
Yeah, I would say so. Except maybe one or two, probably.
And when they were trying to figure out what are the effects of social media on adults, they focused on, one study I learned was very interesting, that they focused on 65 plus age group, and that it actually benefited them, their social engagement, as well as their other domains of everyday well-being, that increased a lot with social media. So we talk a lot about the negative effects, but there's also positive effects that you do feel a social connection. And that's something that I can relate to.
Yeah.
But, actually a lot of companies and a lot of people now, they use, social media for a very specific reason, or just the effect of what you're surrounding yourself with. And they have different ways that they affect you. So some of the things that they talked about was a tactic like social proof, in which the idea is, everyone's getting this, you should get it too. Sometimes I ask questions on my Instagram and they mention that, I haven't tried this, but this is one solution to your problem because I've heard about it. And I'm like, how can you recommend to me something that you haven't even tried, but you've heard about because everyone seems to be using it? I think that's such a powerful tactic. And obviously another one was, liking, that flattery gets you everywhere. So you're like, you know what? You're my kind of people. Yeah, we're totally stick together. We're so much alike, and so this connection builds, in which now the other person doesn't want to disappoint you, because we're of the same group and we've already mentioned that we like each other. So they don't want to do anything or whatever to disappoint you, and they will probably follow you more in that way. So it is very intense, this impact of our surroundings.
I'm feeling very intense just listening to that. Feeling very disconnected as well, because at the end of the day, social media is a business. So you take the good from it, and at the end of the day, it's like any other business. So that's what I kind of try and remind myself.
When I'm mentioning the entire social proof and liking and all those things, this was not specific to social media. It was just in general.
Yeah.
Because just a few different words can affect how you respond to a situation.
It's so true. There was one time I saw this ad and it really, really shocked me because... So the ad was a group of people and they all had the latest smartphone. And there was one guy who came from a background which didn't really use smartphones, and maybe he potentially couldn't afford a smartphone, and he pulled out his, not on smartphone, like, what do you call them?
The original phones, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess. So he pulled out his phone, I guess that was not like the other ones, and you know, the ones that we used to use back then.
The flip phone.
And I love
the
them.
Nokia.
Yeah, the Nokia 3310 and them. So he pulled it out and he felt a sense of belittlement. So he looks at his phone and then he puts it back into his pocket and says, Like, you could sense the discomfort. And so the ad goes on to say that don't ever feel left out. Be part of your friends or be part of something. And I thought, what? The whole premise of this ad is trying to make you fit in, not being left out. And when you look more and more, that is how things work.
There's a similar one that I've seen on, I don't remember exactly, but it's they're in the cashier line and they're paying for the groceries, whatever, and the person takes out cash instead of credit card, which everyone uses, and they say, oh, the whole grocery store just slows down. Everyone's looking at that guy. Everyone has credit card. Why are you taking out cash, you know? And so that person was like, okay. So the whole idea was, yeah, join everyone. Don't be the weird one.
Yeah.
Geez, how crazy is that?
Yeah. It's really, really, really tugging on those aspects of ourselves, standing out in that way, and that need to belong to something.
So imagine that if the words are of strangers are impacting you, you know, they have a whole science behind it and how they channel their words so that you can influence your behavior. I wonder how then it is for people who are around me every day who are just, you know, like they're unfiltered.
Yeah.
I'm not, if I'm not filtering them, then anything that they say is potentially affecting me.
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I'm a sponge, I've realized. And if I'm surrounding myself with people that are different to me or something that I don't want to be surrounded with, I tend to pick up bits of their personality.
Oh.
So that's when I realized I'm such a sponge and I need to really be intentional and conscious of what and who I'm surrounding myself with. So that was a very scary realization.
Wow. I think I can relate to that on an emotional level. So if a person around me are they very high strung or stressed or whatever, I do get affected by that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling a certain type of way right now. And I just, yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think, I don't know if I'm affected by behaviors as much. I probably am, but just deep down looking at it, I'm not sure. But definitely emotions.
Yeah. It's like, for example, if someone around me has a certain view, maybe a less optimistic view, that will manifest somehow, somewhere, if I'm surrounded by it a lot. And then I'll see myself a few days later say something along the same lines, and I'll be like, hold on a minute, where did that come from? Oh, I see. Okay, that's where it came from.
I remember this conversation, yeah. That's totally true.
So that's the conversation in my mind.
I came up on a saying that I think might be Buddhist. I'm not sure, but it was so interesting. And this is how it went. Paper wrapped around incense smells of incense, and string binding fish smells of fish. Whether we like it or not, we naturally become influenced by our surroundings. And I imagine I would like to smell more of like an incense than fish.
That's really
and
funny.
Especially fish that's been kind of sitting out for a while. You know, like if you go to a good fish market, you know it shouldn't smell too fishy. And if it smells too fishy, then you know it's not fresh fish, kind of a thing. And we can get into different categories for this, but the reality is that what we surround ourselves with is exactly who we're going to be and what we will be emulating. So the importance of good network cannot be taken out of the equation.
Yeah, you know, there's that story about a boy. It's an experiment, and someone tells a boy to put one bad apple in a box of apples that are good. And a few days later, when he opens the box, he finds that all of the apples have gone bad. And from that's the influence of having someone or surrounding yourself with something or someone that is not quite right for you.
All these stories date back in time. There's something that, I remember a little bit more growing up from my parents, and they would tell me stories about social influences, who my friends are, and stuff like that. So it's amazing that we just have to kind of expand it now because, like we mentioned, the online and in-person environment is the same. And not online, not necessarily in social media, but online as in what is on TV, what we're watching on Netflix, all of those things that are entering into our hearts. Those influences are very, very important regardless of where they come from.
Yeah, everything that we're consuming. I actually liked this analogy where it said that, just how there's junk food for the body that makes us feel quite lethargic and horrible after, there's also junk food for the soul and the heart. So what is that junk food that you're consuming in your life that maybe we need to make better choices for? And I loved that. I thought that's quite
awesome.
relatable.
You know what's so scary though? For when it comes to junk food for the heart, I feel that we don't realize that it's junk food until we stop for a moment and be like, wait a minute. Like it requires me to check in with myself. Because I can be consuming it for like hours and days and months, and then immediately I'm like, wait, hang on, Allah, I don't know, it's by the mercy of Allah that we do that, and that we take a moment and be like, I think this is really bad for me. It's kind of like going to the doctor's office. You get a wake-up call after a blood test, right? Like you wouldn't really know until you're like, oh, your cholesterol is too high. Oh, okay, now I need to make changes. Like I think it's better that you get that blood test done rather than end up with cardiac arrest or something.
Subhanallah, before you fall into something that is a consequence.
An irreversible one or possibly a fatal one.
That is so big. So is there something that you do to kind of check yourself every now and again and see where you are?
I don't know if I do it consciously, even though I think that is the way to do it, is, the idea of muhasabah, that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ used to do that at the end of every day, and they would sit quietly and be like, okay, what did I do today in regards to my relationship with Allah and in regards to my relationship with people? So I think the way to do that is that introspection at the end of the day or whatever, that, what did I really do today? Did I do something for my hereafter, or was I just so consumed in everyday things?
Yes. Self-reflection is so beneficial. No wonder it's such a big part of our faith.
Right. And I think that is the way to do it. I don't do it myself, and I know I should, but unfortunately. Inshallah, we will do it starting today, Qudsiyah.
Inshallah, we can do more of it.
So when we're talking about influences, I think we can definitely refer back to our season 1 episode on toxicity, because we talked a little bit about the influence of people and how they affect us. In that episode, it was specifically about toxic people, but I think that's a really good look back to say that, this is something that affects us in many different ways.
Yeah, we discussed quite a few things in the toxicity episode, which is episode 5, I believe, and how people around you can really make or break things, and, they can influence you to be a better person, or even potentially influence you to fall into things that might be harmful for you. For me, I definitely know that I did surround myself with people, and we spoke about this in our first episode, where we said that there were certain people in our lives that weren't right for us. And for me, my mom could see that when I was younger. She'd always tell me, be careful of this, be careful of that, all the time. And I would be like, no, it's fine, it's completely fine. But that's the thing, when you're in it, you can't always tell. It's so important to have those people around you that support you, that, can see what's really going on, and that can advise you. Because when you're in the situation, sometimes it all seems all happy and nothing's really wrong. So it's so important to have a good network of people.
It's eating at you and you don't even know about it. That's true. And you know how they do in businesses, when they're talking about networking in businesses, the whole idea is to connect with people, inspire you and mentor you and things like that. So the idea that you surround yourself with people who can help you and make you better is something that is in every field of study. It's not only related to one thing. All fields can relate to that one.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. You know, what I've also realized is that the people that you surround yourself with and the kind of material that you surround yourself with can really shape your worldview and how you look at the world, and then eventually how you do things. And when I think about people that have different worldviews, it's because they're surrounded by particular things that shape that worldview, you know? So it's so important for me, it's so important to have a correct worldview and surround myself with things that enrich that worldview that we want to have Islamically as well.
And I think it is very important to remember as well that we are very much social creatures. We require, people around us. I mean, now some people can say that they can live in the mountains with a dog for the rest of their life, and they probably could. But for the majority of us, it's very important. We need that social interaction, whether it's good or bad. We're going to seek it out in one way or another. During the time of Prophet ﷺ, when they're talking about migrating to Medina, and the entire process where the Prophet ﷺ created this brotherhood for everyone, which every companion had something with them to help them and to guide them and just, to support one another. So social, let's say that if you don't have a social interaction, then probably you should find a social network where there is a lot of positivity so that you can grow. And that person can be that checks and balances for you, and you can be that for the other person too.
Yeah, I love that in our faith, a brother or sister is a mirror for the other.
Right.
So together you can grow and you can help one another grow, and it's so enriching to have that. Of course, it doesn't have to be online. It doesn't always have to be like in person. It could be anything, because the options are many these days. But at the same time, I feel like as you grow older, maybe, or just right now, it feels rare to find that, because this is also one of the intentions with which we created our podcast, isn't it? To create that sense of community that we might not always find.
Exactly. You have to be really choosy and picky about it.
Because you know what you want now. And I feel like for me, when I was younger, it was really easy to find friends because you're just in that mindset of, yeah, I just want to have fun, like good people, yeah, I just want to have fun. But then there also comes a time where you want to have more than fun, you want to do other things as well, and you want other areas of your life to also be enriched.
I think at this point, when you reach that mental stage, then you have a standard. You're like, okay, it needs to pass this test. If it doesn't, then I'm not interested in this relationship.
Yeah, you become a lot more selective. For sure, because you know how that affects you.
Through this conversation, we're saying that one way to protect yourself is by choosing people really carefully and, being very careful of what we surround ourselves with. But, I was thinking that is it possible to completely protect yourself? Can you say at one point that, oh my God, I have reached this point where I know exactly what my pitfalls are and what my failures are, and yeah, I'll be okay now. I can avoid this now. I have to worry about other things, but this I have done now. And then I just fell upon a podcast by Sister Samia. It is called Sincerely Samia. And she talks about spirituality versus self-development episode. And she mentions that a little bit of a wake-up call for me, that no one is immune from this. Like, you think you're protected from this trait that you have. It could be in 5 years, it could be in 10 years, but something might happen. Allah creates this environment for you in which you are tested once more, and you may very well fall, So you have to be on guard all the time.
Absolutely. I loved that point so much, because it is so humbling and it's so true that the only reason we're not the people that we used to be is because of Allah's mercy. And if He crafted those same situations for us now, you don't know.
No.
You
I want to say that I do, but the reality is I really don't.
I would like to think that I know, but
right?
Maybe with the right situations, I just don't know. You can't ever know. You just have to kind of always be on guard, like you said. It's true. It was such a good reminder.
Definitely we'll share that episode in our material for this week. So you can find that linked online. And so we're talking about good company, how it affects our behaviors and everything. I think it's important to say that good company also affects our mental health or our emotional health. Actually, World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And it is important for us to focus on emotional health because I feel like that really, all of those three things, physical, mental, social, interact with each other. All these three things affect each other. You know, if one thing is kind of messed up, your physical health will be bad. So it is this idea of caring for yourself from all different angles. And obviously, as Muslims, we do that so that we can worship Allah to the best of our capacity. And if we are feeling certain kind of, emotionally, then we're more likely to kind of set back on that worship part a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think that they all go together and they all impact one another. I really like the word well-being because it sounds so holistic to me. It's well-being. I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. The more I hear it, the more I think, yes, I want well-being. Because that sums everything up. I love that. So, how would you personally define good company? Maybe not necessarily define, but how would you know that you're in good company?
I think for me, the answer might be coming from how do I know that it's bad company? When I was looking for those research things, I found that, one of the things I talked about was to get yourself out of those influences is for you to recognize what is going on. If they're using a tactic or something that you recognize that, you're like, oh, I know what this is happening, and that will help you get away from it more. So how do I know that is good is well, how is it making me feel when I'm around them? Is it making me feel insecure? Am I like, oh, am I just shaky? Am I just not feeling well? Like kind of what we mentioned about checking in at the end of the day. How did that whole situation is making me feel? There was one gathering I went to. It was, I don't want to go into too many details, but it was like a regular gathering that people go to all the time. And there was a lot of, just a lot of commotion and whatever happening over there. And in the middle of it, I just wanted to leave so bad because I realized immediately that this is not a place which is functioning me. This is not a gathering which is functioning me. But I couldn't leave because it was a commitment. So sometimes it's that obvious where you're like, oh, I need to leave now. And sometimes it's very subtle. So definitely focusing on how it's making me feel is one way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That was a really long answer to your question.
But yes. I also function with, I might not know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do. So that helps me as well. Two things that stand out for me is, number one, that they're just genuine. That they're genuinely genuine. I think that's such a good indicator. Because if they're genuine, then they wouldn't play tricks and play these tactics. And the other thing that stands out for me is the ability to be happy when good comes to you. Because it can be really easy to be sad when something sad is happening to someone, but to be happy for someone else when good comes to them is such a big thing as well. So when people are happy for you, when good comes to you, that's a sign of like a good company, I feel.
I agree, definitely.
Yeah. I was listening to a lecture actually, and the lecturer said that don't be with people that waste time. And that was really hard-hitting for me in the sense that I'd never even thought of it like that. And he gave an example of, whenever this person invites you, you're always doing so many activities that are not quite productive. So you're always kind of wasting time. So you have to think about where that's going to get you. And if you continue surrounding yourself with this person, you might slack yourself and you might get into the habit of wasting time. And that again really reminded me of it's so important to see who you're surrounding yourself with. And he also mentioned that Prophet Isa was once asked about the people that we should sit with, and he said that sit with those that remind you of Allah. And I really liked that.
That's very beautiful.
Lots of things to think about, I feel.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, all of our interactions should bring us closer to Allah in some way or another. And obviously, I mean, I don't think it's possible for a person like me right now. I hope one day it will be to sit around and be in constant pious company. You know what I'm saying? Like someone
absolutely.
who's constantly connected. But the reality, though, I've learned is when I read some of the books that I read, that the people who are, you know, like really close to Allah, you know, like obviously but much better than I can see myself being, that they're really down to earth people. They're just wise and just throw wisdom everywhere, you know, but they're just not like those I must sit and do dhikr for 20 minutes before we start this right now. You can have your interaction with coworkers or your classmates or whatever in a play dates, if you have play dates with your other friends, and those things can lead you to think about Allah at the end of the day, and I think that also counts.
Absolutely. I also think when you were saying that, one thing that came into my mind was how important humility is as a characteristic, and how much it opens up so many different avenues to just realize and understand Allah's signs. Because when you're humble, your heart opens up to so many different things, and it's quite beautiful. So that's maybe another characteristic to self-reflect on as well. But I relate to you. It doesn't have to always be like a mentorship situation. It's just casual conversations. So yeah, that's how we've spoken about good company. If there's something that you've benefited from today, we'll be so grateful if you'd share it with someone you know. It would help us out a lot if you'd review it on your favorite app and also subscribe to the podcast. You can contact us at Soulful Latte Podcast on Instagram and write to us at soulfullattepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep growing.